This is our recorded discussion regarding triple burden of diseases, understanding the coexistence of communicable, non-communicable, and emerging diseases in modern public health. So from the term itself, class, when we say triple burden of diseases, we actually look at the impact or the effects of the simultaneous presence of three major categories of health problems. So commonly, this includes our infectious diseases or our communicable diseases. We have your non-communicable diseases just like our chronic diseases, and we have your emerging and or re-emerging diseases. So in public health class, it is very important that we know the impact of your triple burden of diseases. So many countries experiencing this problem face several complex health system challenges. So first one, there is an increased healthcare cost. So since we have three types of diseases that we need to manage, so the higher the healthcare costs that we need. The next one is we have competition for limited medical resources. So when it comes to letter B, dito na po papasok yung ating prioritization. So alin ba sa tatlo ang kailangan nating i-prioritize first or paglaanan natin ng sapat na medical resources? Like for example, money. So money is an important medical resources that we need in order to manage and prevent these types of diseases. The next one is need for integrated disease prevention programs, and lastly, requirement for strong public health policies. So when it comes to our country, the Philippines, so World Health Organization has described the Philippines as having a triple burden of disease consisting of persistent communicable disease, increasing levels of non-communicable diseases, and illness due to natural disasters. So given that Philippines is actually considered to be the third highest disaster prone country in the world. So this is according to the report of World Health Organization last 2014. So remember, your triple burden of diseases, by the way class, is very common in low and middle income countries. Okay, so we have here 5 types of illnesses that are actually prevalent in the Philippines. So what are these types of illnesses? First one is we have mental illness or diseases. So yung mga sakit natin when it comes to our mental health may be caused by stress, or there is hereditary low esteem and even pressure, so causing depression and trauma. The next one, we have accident-related diseases. So for example, we acquire various injuries in our body that when they are not managed or treated well, this will result to the development of various types of infections. The next one, we have lifestyle induced. So due to our medical or due to our health behaviors, so we have your cardiovascular diseases just like your hypertension, we have your diabetes, your CKD or your chronic kidney diseases or disease, and we have your obesity. And then fourth one, we also have your substance abuse. So due to the illegal use of our drugs and the lack of drug education. And then lastly, we have economy-related diseases. So these include diseases of poverty, just like your tuberculosis, cholera, dengue fever, and we have your malaria. So when it comes to the diseases causing the highest mortality rate in the Philippines, so this is from the report of World Health Organization. So for a female, and we have males. So for a female, we have ischemic heart disease, lower respiratory infections, stroke, diabetes mellitus, COVID-19, kidney diseases, hypertensive heart disease, breast cancer, tuberculosis, and your COPD or your chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. For males naman, we also have ischemic heart disease, stroke, lower respiratory infections, we have your TB, kidney diseases, COVID-19, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, hypertensive heart disease, diabetes mellitus, and we have your interpersonal violence. So when it comes to interpersonal violence, yan po yung nakikipag-away or nasasangkot po sa anumang klase ng gulo ang mga kalalakihan. Okay, so based on this data, we will be discussing the most common diseases here in the Philippines. So we will be discussing 5 of them. So starting with your coronary artery disease. So it is a prevalent heart condition characterized by the buildup of your atherosclerotic plaque, or it is also known as your atheroma. So when we say atherosclerotic plaque or your atheroma, diba, that is a hardened cholesterol, fat, or calcium deposits, and even cellular waste that are deposited in our arteries. So again, when we say atherosclerotic plaque or your atheroma, this is your hardened cholesterol, your fat, your calcium ions, and even cellular waste that are deposited in the walls of our arteries. So blood flow impairment reduces oxygen delivery to the myocardium. So remember, in order for our muscles, just like our heart muscles, to contract well, they need oxygen. And since pagdating class sa ating coronary artery disease, black po yung ating blood vessels, so there will be lack of blood flow. Therefore, there is also a lack of oxygen in the body, or in the myocardium, or in the tissues of our heart or muscles of our heart. So the hallmark of the pathophysiology of your coronary artery disease is your atherosclerotic plaque formation. So kumbaga yan yung pinaka main cause ng ating coronary artery disease. So from the term itself, the artery that is mainly affected by this disease is your coronary artery. And just a review of your anatomy, diba, remember your coronary artery, this is a vital blood vessel branching from our aorta that supplies oxygen or rich blood to the heart muscles. Okay, so let's move to the symptoms of your CAD. So some people may not experience any symptoms. So kumbaga is asymptomatic muna yung iba nating mga pasyente until they are on the verge of a serious cardiac event such as a heart attack or heart failure. So this means, class, yung iba sa mga pasyente natin with CAD, usually wala silang nararamdaman, saka lang po sila makakaramdam ng symptoms, or saka lang po ma-observe ang symptoms kapag aatakihin na po sila sa puso or magkakaroon na po sila ng heart failure. So patients may experience the following. So we have chest pain or your angina, we have your palpitation, so irregular yung heartbeat natin, shortness of breath or your dyspnea, we have weakness, nanghihina, dizziness, pagkahilo, sweating, pinagpapawisan, nausea, pagkahilo rin, and then feeling of pressure or heaviness. So, commonly mararamdaman yan sa ating chest. Parang naninikip yung dibdib. Okay. So, for risk factors, we have modifiable and we have non-modifiable risk factors. So, when we say, class, modifiable risk factors, these are this include health-related behaviors and conditions that can be changed or that can be treated or managed to decrease the risk of chronic diseases. So, for example, we have smoking, we have unhealthy eating habits. The next one is we have your sedentary lifestyle. So, when we say sedentary lifestyle, it is a pattern of living that is characterized by prolonged periods of physical inactivity. Like for example, yung ating mga call center agent. So maghapon lang po silang or magdamag lang po silang nakaupo at nakababad sa kanilang laptop or ang kanilang monitor sa kanilang computer. So that is your sedentary lifestyle. So there is a prolonged period of physical inactivity. Hindi siya masyadong gumagalaw. So walang exertion ng force, walang exercise, kumbaga. And then lastly, we have your stress. So these are the different modifiable risk factors that can be changed or altered or can be managed in order to decrease the risk of your CAD. How about your non-modifiable risk factors? So we have age. So remember, class, so when it comes to age, as we age, habang tumatanda tayo, mas tumataas yung risk natin for your CAD. The next one is we have sex. So based on research, mas common po ang ating CAD sa mga kalalakihan. So this is mainly because of yung mga vices, yung mga bisyo po ng ating mga male individuals can actually contribute to the development of your CAD. And lastly, we have genetic predisposition or family history. Okay, when it comes to treatment and prevention, so first one, of course, we need to have lifestyle modification. So, kailangan po nating baguhin yung ating sedentary lifestyle. So, we need to quit smoking, we need to have a healthy diet, we need to have regular exercise, we need to manage properly our weight, and we need to reduce our stress. When it comes to medication, so we have your anticoagulants. So just a review of your pharmacology. So why do you think anticoagulants are needed for the treatment and management of your CAD? Ano po bang ginagawa ng ating anticoagulants? So ating anticoagulants, from the term itself, it decreases the formation of blood clots that can block the artery. So, diba, remember, we already have your atherosclerotic plaque that blocks the artery. Now, para hindi po siya mas lalong mablock due to blood clots, so we need to use anticoagulants to prevent clumping of our clots. Para hindi po mamuo yung ating blood blocking further our arteries. The next one, we have your statins. So, statins, a review again of your pharmacology, your statins, those drugs that ends in statin. Like for example, we have your atorvastatin, ano pa ba? We have your simvastatin, so on and so forth. So what is the pharmacological class of these drugs? But remember, they are HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor. So from the term HMG-CoA reductase inhibitor, this class of drug inhibit the action of your HMG-CoA reductase enzyme, which is considered to be the rate-limiting enzyme of lipid synthesis. So, kumbaga, yung ating statins class, they reduce the concentration or the level of fats or lipids in the body. So, kapag mababa ang lipid sa katawan natin, mababa yung tendency na magkaroon po tayo ng atherosclerotic plaque. So, wala na po kasing mag-harden na lipids or fats sa katawan natin. And the next one is we have your beta blockers. So, since block po yung ating arteries sa CAD, in order to at least alleviate or to lower the blood pressure pushing on the walls of our blood vessels, so we need to use your beta blockers. And then we also have your ACE inhibitors, your angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. So these drugs inhibit the conversion of your angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. So, thereby reducing our blood pressure as well. So, kindly review your RAAS, your renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. And then, lastly, we have your nitrates. So, your nitrates class, they are vasodilating agents or they are vasodilators, thereby increasing or decreasing your blood pressure. Okay, so when it comes to prevention, so we need to maintain a heart-healthy lifestyle, manage underlying conditions like hypertension and diabetes, undergo regular medical checkups for early detection and management. Okay, so that is all about your CAD. Next one is we have your hypertension. So it is a chronic medical condition where the blood pressure in the arteries is persistently elevated, increasing the risk of cardiovascular diseases such as stroke, heart attack, and even kidney failure. Okay, so your hypertension, it is often called as a silent killer. So why? Because yung mga pasyente po natin na may hypertension is usually they are asymptomatic. Wala po silang masyadong nararamdaman. So, your hypertension later on, kapag excessive or too high na po ang ating BP, that may result to your heart attack that may eventually lead to death. Okay, so when it comes to your hypertension, so we are talking about your blood pressure. So as we all know, we have what we call your systolic pressure and we have your diastolic pressure. So when we say systolic pressure, again, just a review, your systolic pressure indicates how much pressure blood exerts when the heart actively pumps. So yan po yung pressure na ma-measure natin when our heart contracts. How about your diastolic pressure? So when it comes to your diastolic pressure class, it is the minimum pressure in the arteries when the heart relaxes between beats. So that is for your systolic and diastolic. Systolic, that is the pressure that is being measured kapag yung heart natin ay nagko-contract. On the other hand, for your diastolic pressure, yan yung minimum pressure na pwede nating ma-measure when our heart relaxes between beats. Okay, so we have here a blood pressure classification based on your American Heart Association guidelines. So, according to these guidelines, normal blood pressure is less than 120 and less than 80. So, that is for your normal blood pressure. For your elevated blood pressure naman po, it ranges from 120 to 129 for your systolic blood pressure and diastolic is less than 80. For your hypertension stage 1, your systolic blood pressure measures 130 to 139 and diastolic is 80 to 89. Hypertension stage 2, so that is equal or greater than 140 sa ating systolic pressure and diastolic naman is equal to or greater than 90. And then lastly, we have hypertensive crisis. So ang ating systolic blood pressure is greater than 180 and at ang ating diastolic is greater than 120. Okay, so we actually have two main types of our hypertension. So we have what we call primary hypertension or it is also known as your essential hypertension and we have your secondary hypertension. So when we say primary hypertension class or essential hypertension, it is a type of hypertension that is actually associated with genetic predisposition or yung ating age and even lifestyle factors. On the other hand, when we say secondary hypertension naman, it is a type of hypertension that is actually caused by underlying conditions or it is caused by a disease, other diseases, just like your kidney diseases, endocrine disorders, the use of medications, and pregnancy-related hypertension. So I repeat, when we say primary or essential hypertension, it is a type of hypertension that is actually associated with genetic predisposition or our age and even our lifestyle factors or our lifestyle. Then when it comes to your secondary hypertension, it is caused by underlying conditions or it is caused by other diseases like for example, kidney diseases, endocrine disorders, and we have your pregnancy-related hypertension as well as the use of certain medications. So when it comes to risk factors, again, we have modifiable and non-modifiable. So for modifiable, we have high salt intake. So pwede po natin yang bawasan. Obesity through diet. So pwede natin i-manage ang ating weight through diet and exercise. Physical inactivity. So instead na nakahiga lang po maghapon, pwede po tayong mag-exercise to lower our blood pressure. And the next one, we have excessive alcohol consumption. So we can limit our alcohol consumption or we can stop yung pagkonsumo po natin ng ating alcohol. And then smoking, we can quit, stress, and we have poor diet. Then for non-modifiable, hindi na po natin siya mababago. We have age, family history, and we have your gender, and we have your race. So just like your CAD, yung hypertension nating class, yung risk for hypertension increases as we age. So commonly yung mga matatanda po, sila po yung usually may hypertension. Okay. Let's now move to the management and treatment of your hypertension. So first and foremost, of course, we have again your lifestyle modification. So it is considered to be the first line for mild hypertension. So we can undergo DASH diet or yung tinatawag nating dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So we can consume foods that are low in sodium ions or those that are low in salt content and fats as well. So we can consume mga greens or mga green leafy vegetables. And then we need to undergo exercise to have our weight loss, and then salt restriction, and then lastly limit alcohol and quit smoking. So for medications that we can use for stage 1 and stage 2, we have your diuretics, we have your ACE inhibitors, your ARBs, we have your calcium channel blockers, we have your beta blockers, and we have your aldosterone antagonists. So when it comes to diuretics, so how do diuretics help in the management of hypertension? So ano po bang ginagawa ng ating diuretics? Diba? They promote diuresis o yung ating urination. So remember class that through urination, we actually decreases blood volume. So when your blood volume decreases, this may eventually decrease as well our blood pressure. Because most of our diuretics as well class, they promote the excretion of sodium ions. And remember yung sodium natin, 'di ba? Nagpapataas po 'yan ng ating blood pressure. The next one, we have your ACE inhibitors. So again, we have your angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. So those medications that ends with pril, enalapril, captopril, those are ACE inhibitors. Okay, sige. Let's review na lang your RAAS. Let me review your renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system or your RAAS. So ano po ba nangyayari sa ating RAAS? So we have our liver. So we have our liver. So our liver class, it releases what we call your angiotensinogen. So our liver, it releases or produces what we call angiotensinogen. Now we have our kidneys, which are responsible for producing our renin. Now in the presence of renin class, it promotes the conversion of your angiotensinogen to your angiotensin. Your angiotensin 1. Now, your angiotensin 1 class can be converted further to your angiotensin 2 via the action of your ACE enzyme, your angiotensin converting enzyme. Now, your angiotensin 2 class, of course, may mga receptors yan class found in our adrenal gland. Your angiotensin 2 again, meron po yang mga receptors sa ating adrenal gland. So when your angiotensin 2 class binds to your adrenal gland, it will activate adrenal gland promoting the secretion or promoting the synthesis of your aldosterone. Now, what is the effect of your aldosterone? Yung aldosterone nating class, remember that it promotes sodium and water retention. So, if meron po tayong sodium and water retention, tataas po ngayon yung ating blood pressure. So, thereby, kaya meron po tayong ACE inhibitors because they inhibit the activity of your ACE enzyme in order for your angiotensin 1 not to be converted to your angiotensin 2. So ano po bang mangyayari again kapag ang ating angiotensin 1 is not converted to your angiotensin 2? So wala na pong magbabind sa different angiotensin 2 receptor sa ating adrenal gland. Therefore, wala pong aldosterone na marirelease na magpropromote ng ating sodium and water retention. Thereby, bababa po ang ating blood pressure. How about your angiotensin receptor blockers? Your ARBs, just like your losartan, candesartan. So, ang action po nila is directly on the different ARBs dun sa ating receptors. So, they block the binding of your angiotensin 2 to the different angiotensin 2 receptors found in our adrenal gland. And I just want to add a class as well that your aldosterone itself, it may cause vasoconstriction. So when aldosterone is present in the body, it may promote vasoconstriction or narrowing of your blood vessels. Thereby, it may increase now your blood pressure. That is why it is very important or very essential class yung paggamit natin ng ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor blockers in the management of our blood pressure. So, okay, and then we have your CCBs, your calcium channel blockers. So, ang ginagawa lang po ng drugs na to is that they reduce heart rate and myocardial contractility which further lowers our blood pressure. So, gaya lang din po siya ng beta blockers. So, diba, remember, a review again of your pharmacology. When your beta-1 receptors are activated, that will lead to increased chronotropic and inotropic effects. So, tataas po ang ating heart rate at tataas din po yung force of contraction or lalakas yung force of contraction ng ating heart, thereby increasing blood pressure. So, when our drugs block this beta receptors or beta-1 receptors, that will decrease the chronotropy and inotropy, thereby reducing our blood pressure. And then we have aldosterone antagonists. So, from the term itself, they antagonizes the action of your aldosterone that promotes, again, sodium and water retention that increases our blood pressure. So actually, your aldosterone antagonist, this is a class of potassium-sparing diuretics. Yan. So that is for your hypertension. Let us now move to your stroke. So a stroke occurs when blood flow to the brain is interrupted, leading to brain cell damage or death due to lack of oxygen and nutrients. So ang barado naman class na blood vessel is makikita natin sa ating brain. So that is for your stroke. There is a reduced blood flow, thereby reducing as well oxygen supply and nutrients that will lead to brain cell damage or death. So it is a medical emergency that requires immediate treatment to prevent long-term disability or death. So let's talk about yung baradong ugat sa ating utak that causes your stroke. So actually, a stroke can be caused by two types of clots. So we have what we call your thrombus and we have your embolus. So we have your thrombus and we have your embolus. So when we say thrombus class, it is a type of blood clot that is formed within a blood vessel. So it is a type of blood clot that is formed within a blood vessel. So dun mismo sa blood vessel siya ng utak, let's say, when it comes to stroke, dun mismo siya sa blood vessel ng utak na buo. So that is your thrombus. On the other hand, when we say embolus, it is a type of blood clot that travels from another part of the body and lodges in a blood vessel. So for example, pwedeng may blood clot ka na na-form sa ating deep vein dito sa ating legs, and pwedeng mag-travel yung blood clot na yon going to our brain, causing now your stroke. So that is your embolus. So ibig sabihin, your thrombus class, pwede po siyang maging embolus. Like for example, yung thrombus nga natin, na-form siya sa ating deep vein. So kapag ka na-detach yan, dun sa kanyang point of attachment, so pwedeng mag-travel yan going to our brain, causing now your stroke. So pwede niyang ma-block kasi yung ating blood vessel sa ating brain, causing your stroke. So that is your thrombus and embolus. So I hope, class, that some of the terms that I am actually mentioning are just a review to you. So just like your thrombus and embolus. So I hope you already have the background about these types of blood clots. Okay, so we have three main types of stroke. So we have what we call ischemic stroke, hemorrhagic stroke, and we have your transient ischemic attack. Okay, let's start first with your ischemic stroke. So it is a type of stroke that is caused by a blockage in a blood vessel supplying the brain. So it is usually due to your thrombus or your embolus. And it is a type of stroke that is associated with your atherosclerosis, high cholesterol, and hypertension. Next one is we have your hemorrhagic stroke. So from the term hemorrhage, so it is a type of stroke that is caused by a rupture of a blood vessel leading to bleeding in the brain. So common causes, we have hypertension, we have aneurysm rupture, we have your arteriovenous malformations. And then lastly, we have your transient ischemic attack. So it is caused by temporary blockage of blood flow. So it lasts for minutes to hours, and there is no permanent damage but a warning sign of future stroke. So kapag nagkaroon ka class ng TIA, mas mataas ang likelihood na ma-stroke ka. So that is for the different types of your stroke. So what are the different risk factors? So for modifiable, we have hypertension, diabetes mellitus, high cholesterol, smoking, obesity, sedentary lifestyle, excessive alcohol consumption, and drug use. So as you can see, yung mga modifiable risk factors natin dun sa mga diseases na na-discuss na natin is very common po yung hypertension, diabetes mellitus, yung excessive alcohol consumption, and drug use. So, ibig sabihin, class, yung ating mga bisyo, yung ating vices, ayan, may cause various types of diseases. So, kapag ka nag-diet ka, nag-exercise ka, in-improve mo yung diet mo, yung weight mo, it may actually prevent different types of diseases just like your CAD, your hypertension, and even your stroke. Then lastly, we have your non-modifiable risk factors. So again, we have age, family, history, male sex, and prior stroke or your transient ischemic attack. So, gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, na kapag ka nag-TIA ka na, mas mataas yung likelihood na mai-stroke ka. Okay, so signs and symptoms of your stroke. So, ito naman ay very common. So, we have your FAST. So, FAST stands for letter F, face drooping. So, one side of the face appears weak or droop. So, parang kumbaga is naglaylay yung kalahating face po natin. And then we have arm weakness. So, unable to raise both arms equally. And then we have speech difficulty. So, slurred or incoherent speech, nabubulol po. So, kapag ka you have a suspected patient that na-stroke, so you can actually ask them to raise their hand. So, kung makikita ninyo na hindi pantay yung pagkakataas ng kanilang arms or yung kanilang hand, so that is one of the signs. Then, aside from that, kapag ka may pinaulit kang word sa kanila ay hindi nila mabigkas ng maayos kahit na madali lang po siyang sabihin or bigkasin. And then, kapag ka napansin mo na yung mga ganong symptoms, so it is now the time to call emergency services because stroke class requires immediate medical attention. So other symptoms, so sudden confusion, loss of vision, dizziness or loss of balance, and we have severe headache. Okay, so for the treatment and prevention, so we have ischemic stroke. So we can undergo IV thrombolysis with the use of your alteplase. So your alteplase class, that is a thrombolytic or fibrinolytic agent that decreases the formation of our blood clot or our thrombus. The next one, we have mechanical thrombectomy. So catheter-based removal of large clots. So pwede mag-undergo ng surgery in order to remove mechanically yung ating malalaking blood clots. And then we have supportive care. We can provide oxygen therapy kapag yung pasyente natin ay nahihirapang huminga. Then secondary prevention, we can use antiplatelet therapy, anticoagulants, statins, and lifestyle interventions. And the next one is we have for your hemorrhagic stroke. So surgical intervention, so we have craniotomy or clipping or coiling for aneurysms. Prevention of recurrence, so control diabetes, smoking, and alcohol use. Okay, and then last one, let's talk about your pneumonia. So pneumonia is an infection of the lungs that causes inflammation of your alveoli or yung tinatawag nating air sacs, which may fill with fluid or pus, leading to difficulty in breathing, cough, fever, and even chest pain. So it can range from mild to life-threatening, especially in infants, elderly individuals, and immunocompromised patients. Okay, so we have 3 types of pneumonia based on causative agents. So just a review of your microbiology. So we have different bacteria that can cause pneumonia. So what are they? We have your Streptococcus pneumoniae, Haemophilus influenzae, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, Legionella pneumophila, and we have your Klebsiella pneumoniae. For viral pneumonia, it can be caused by your influenza virus. We have your respiratory syncytial virus or your RSV. And then we have your SARS-CoV-2 and we have your adenovirus. And then lastly, we have your fungal pneumonia. So this may be caused by your Pneumocystis jirovecii. So this is very common, or this is the common causative agent of fungal pneumonia in immunocompromised patients, just like those who have HIV or AIDS. And then we have Histoplasma capsulatum, and then we have your Cryptococcus neoformans, and we have the different Aspergillus species. So another type of pneumonia based on source. So we have community-acquired pneumonia or your CAP. So it is a type of pneumonia that is acquired outside hospitals. And then next we have your HAP or your hospital-acquired pneumonia. So kapag ang isang infection is acquired during hospitalization, but they are considered to be nosocomial infections. So your HAP develops it develops 48 hours after hospitalization, often more severe due to antibiotic resistance. Then another type of pneumonia is associated with the use of our ventilators. So it occurs in patients on mechanical ventilation. And then lastly, we have your aspiration pneumonia. So it is caused by inhaling food, liquid, or vomit, common in stroke patients or those with swallowing difficulties. So those are the different types of pneumonia based on source. So what are the different risk factors for pneumonia? First one, weakened immune system. So yung mga pasyente nating may HIV or AIDS, may cancer and diabetes. Elderly age, so yung mga pasyente natin na 65 years old and above, so they are very high risk for pneumonia, and even infants that are under 2 years of age. And then aside from that, we have chronic lung diseases. We have COPD, asthma, and cystic fibrosis. So patients who have this chronic lung diseases are at risk for developing or acquiring pneumonia. And then hospitalization or recent surgery, smoking and alcohol abuse, and neurological conditions just like your stroke or Parkinson's disease and even dementia. Okay, so what are the different signs and symptoms of pneumonia? So mild to severe symptoms, this include your fever and chills, your cough, dyspnea, chest pain, which is sharp, worsens with breathing or coughing. So sumasakit, masalang sumasakit po yung dibdib kapag ka humihinga or kapag ka umuubo. And then we have fatigue and muscle aches, and then sputum production and cyanosis. So when it comes to signs and symptoms of the elderly and infants or children, in elderly, it may present with confusion or delirium instead of fever or cough. And then for infants or children, fast breathing, grunting, nasal flaring, poor feeding, and irritability. So when it comes to treatment, of course, we have various types or we have various approaches in the treatment and management of pneumonia depending on the causative agent. So if your pneumonia is caused by bacteria, we can use, of course, our antibacterial agent. So we can use coamoxiclav for mild to moderate cases, macrolides for atypical pneumonia, fluoroquinolones for severe cases or drug resistance, and we can use cephalosporins for hospitalized patients. For viral pneumonia, so supportive care like giving fluids, oxygen, and rest. And we can use as well your antivirals, just like your oseltamivir, and we have your remdesivir. And then lastly, we have your fungal pneumonia. So we can use our antifungals, just like your amphotericin B, fluconazole, and your itraconazole. So that is the end of our discussion regarding your triple burden of diseases and the different chronic diseases in the Philippines.